Canelo Alvarez has quite recently given a ruthless reaction to the battle call-out from Terence Crawford. In the meantime, Alexander Usyk accepts that Crawford will arise triumphant over Canelo, assuming that their profoundly expected session happens in the early long stretches of the following year. The WBC and WBO heavyweight champion Usyk believes Crawford's specialized ability will be fundamental to overcoming Canelo's mass and strength, albeit a Canelo-Crawford fight has not yet been booked. His Excellency Turkey Alec is supportive of it. As per reports, he vowed to give Canelo a fair cost for the match. The specific sum is obscure, yet Canelo would need to be very well off to need to take the risk of demolishing his standing by battling a welterweight. Say Terran wins. Terran is an alternate man. Terran works in different sides on the right and the left, said Alexander Usyk on the 3 Knockout Decide YouTube channel. Assuming that battle plays out, Usyk predicts a triumph for Terence Crawford over Canelo Alvarez at 168. 1 year from now, Usyk added, he feels the distance Terran can box like a major person, considering Floyd Mayweather Jr. procured more than $200 million for his session against Manny Pacquiao. Canelo Alvarez could look for tantamount remuneration given that he's confronting a contender suggestive of cash may. Anyway, Turkey is probably not going to consent to such a high payout for a Canelo-Crawford matchup, as it's supposed to miss the mark regarding the blockbuster pay-per-view figures created by Mayweather vs. Pacquiao in 2015. Both of those warriors were significant draws on pay-per-view. By contrast, Crawford has had quite recently a solitary effective PPV occasion in his 16-year profession, which came against Errol Spence in 2023. Anyway, it was Spence, not Crawford, who achievement Crawford is supposed to embrace. A technique like Mayweather's while confronting Canelo, zeroing in on a strategic methodology of consistent development and subtle footwork to keep away from risk and secure a choice. Triumph. While the battle could need firecrackers, Crawford's calculated blueprint will probably see him accomplish his target of outsmarting Canelo and avoiding the knockout zone. Crawford's possibilities outliving Canelo in a fight are thin. Rather, he'll copy the Mayweather procedure, planning to box his direction through each of the 12 rounds. Devotees of specialized boxing will savor the Canelo-Crawford session, while the people who desire relentless activity may be frustrated. It turns ludicrous when a reigning champion goes head-to-head against a 3 rivals weight classes to 6 for a world title. For example, if Crawford somehow happened to rise to challenge Canelo for his WBA, WBC, and WBO super middleweight belts, Canelo stands to not acquire anything from this session and will probably confront public disdain, no matter what the result. Despite the fact that Crawford confronted Israel Madoff this Saturday, a session among him and Canelo would in any case be seen by fans as the Mexican was shielding his title against a welterweight. One battle doesn't change Crawford into a lesser middleweight according to General Society. Anyway, Crawford has clarified that his definitive objective right currently is to challenge Canelo at super middleweight. The Mexican warrior has recently minimized the meaning of this challenge, contending that overcoming a more modest rival wouldn't gain him much appreciation. Yet Bud stays tireless, his drive for triumph matched simply by David Benavidez, who has combated his direction through the strong competitors at 168 to get an opportunity to confront Canelo. Neither one of the warriors has figured out how to make progress this year. Canelo is set to confront Edgar Berlanga on September 14th, safeguarding 3 of the 4 significant titles subsequent to losing the IBF belt Floyd Mayweather a 50. No battling extraordinary. Examined the issue with battle publicity and recommended that Crawford and Benov make right. He said, I believe he's a very talented contender, exceptionally gifted contender. I thought about this to go to 168, and he needs to battle Canelo, and Benavidez needs to battle Canelo. They can't get Canelo, they can battle each other. Benavidez and Crawford. Both you folks are pursuing one warrior. You all can't get that battle, then you all ought to say we'll battle each other. It's an entrancing thought, however it appears to be very unrealistic. Bud has recently expressed that he wants to have Canelo's name scratched onto his record, as opposed to confronting a bigger adversary. In the meantime, Ben Aids has ongoing as of late live focused on the light heavyweight division for years to come, particularly after his endeavors to bait Canelo into a title protection missed the mark. In the meantime, Sean Watchman has told Top Sport that Crawford is clearly equipped for overcoming Canelo. Presently resigned from the ring, Watchman has changed gears to turn into a savant inlay, preparing for Crawford's WBA super welterweight world title standoff against Israel Madoff this Saturday night. Should the American victory, he will end up being an individual from a restrictive gathering of 4 weight title holders. Crawford's objectives, anyway, don't stop there. In the end, he needs to climb 2 additional classes to confront Canelo, the Supreme Super Middleweight Champion. Yet first, he really wants to overcome Madoff, who has never lost. Norman told Toport when asked what Madoff will be facing on Saturday. He's an undeniable competitor. He's very certain and clearly incredibly gifted and skilled. Madoff is facing a ton of physicality. He's facing a ton of speed, a ton of influence, and he's facing a mind that can't be copied. Watchman added, so assuming that I was in Madoff's corner, I'd get out. Whatever you truly do, don't redirect from what you do. You need to continue to press. And perhaps you'll press a button brilliantly discussing Crawford versus Canelo. Watchman said that his previous adversary can win. He even ventured to such an extreme as to propose that relying upon Crawford's exhibition against Madrimov, it probably won't strike him as a furious. If Canelo somehow happened to tumble to the normally more modest warrior, Doorman demanded it's a practical battle somehow or another. It would be a bombshell in the event that Terence won. Yet I have to strongly disagree, particularly in the event that he accomplishes something astounding on battle night here against Mauve. I believe it's anything but a resentful. That is a 55,050 to me, and I truly do figure Crawford could beat Canelo. When inquired as to whether he suspected Madoff, the contender he is advancing, could overcome a generational ability like Crawford, Eddie Hearn made sense of that. Timing was critical. He recognized his job in supporting Israel Madoff, yet perceived that Madoff was a huge dark horse. Hearn referenced that Madoff had large numbers of the fundamental characteristics. For example, specialized expertise, intelligence level, strength, and sturdiness. Taking note of that, he was not a frail puncher or an ill-suited 154-pounder, while Madoff could in fact match or verge on matching Crawford. Hearn conceded that Crawford was a generational incredible and consequently vigorously preferred. Hearn additionally recommended that preferably Madoff would have profited from a few additional battles, yet underscored that immediately jumping all over the chance was fundamental when found out if Crawford had any desire to battle Canelo. And assuming Canelo was keen on the matchup, Eddie Hearn answered that Canelo was not especially enthusiastic about the battle. He felt that beating the more modest Crawford wouldn't procure him much credit in regards to whether Canelo would take the battle in the wake of confronting Ed Berlanga on September 14th. Hearn recommended that Canelo would think about any battle, assuming the monetary terms were correct. He noticed that Canelo had no apprehension about Terence Crawford, and was more worried about the acknowledgement he would get for the triumph Hearn made sense of. In the event that he wins that battle, it resembles he beat a 154-pounder and a 147-pounder who just came up. In the event that he loses that battle, it resembles gracious, he got beat by a 54-pounder with Canelo. He chooses contenders in view of the styles that he loves. I really imagine that is the reason he picked Edgar Berlanga and Ha Monja. He enjoys folks that approach and battle him. Hearn likewise referenced that Canelo favored adversaries who approach and connect instead of the people who move and box from the back foot, as proven by his distress with Gelcharo's development. Hearn said, I don't think he loves confronting warriors who move. His body is presumably not exactly what it was when Charlo ran off the back foot. Canelo could have done without it or appreciate it. He believes that somebody that comes should battle. He'll battle anybody. He additionally in his mind has a number that he thinks battles are worth the efforts, whether that is sensible when gotten some information about his hit or miss relationship with Alvarez, who will next battle match Rooms Berlanga on a PBC Le show. Hearn portrayed their relationship as exceptionally fair. He considered Alvarez companion and one of the best warriors of their age, a pound-for-pound perfect, and a legend. Hearn communicated that he comprehended Alvarez well in their transactions, which permitted them to cooperate successfully and settle on arrangements. Hearn expressed that he wasn't irritated whenever Alvarez accepted a superior open door somewhere else, recognizing that Alvarez would continuously pick the best and open door for himself as opposed to out of devotion. He noticed that, assuming that conditions were equivalent, Alvarez would almost certainly decide to work with them. Hearn referenced that when they marked Berlanga, he had vowed to protect a battle with Canelo, initially anticipating that it should be a matchroom advanced occasion. Rather, they needed to arrange an arrangement with PBC for the battle. Hearn said Benovitz is presently crusading at 175s. He's a gigantic fellow, and in the ring without a rehydration provision, he will be the greater person. I think Canelo realizes that is an intense battle, whether it's genuine that he needs $150 million, or he put that out there to draw near to $100 million, he wouldn't hold back to take that battle. There is no essential for him that feels like he wouldn't win that battle. He comprehends that contention implies enormous cash. Then again, Terence Crawford is seriously committed to his session against Israel Madoff. This battle denotes His Excellency Turkey Alal Sheikh's debut occasion in the U.S. as a feature of the Riyadh season, in spite of his desire to close his vocation on a high note with it. Conflict against bound together super middleweight champion Canelo Alvarez. Crawford remains steadfastly centered around the main job, undistracted by the whirling hypothesis about a future standoff with Canelo with world titles in 3 different weight classes, and being the principal warrior to accomplish undisputed status in 2 of them. Terence Bud Crawford is set to challenge for the WBS Super Welterweight and WBO Break Super Welterweight belts against Madoff. His center is unquestionable during a new appearance on Logan Paul's hit digital broadcast. Rash, the 36-year-old, shared his extraordinary outlook as he plans for this high-stakes session on Saturday during the webcast. The discussion easily moved to the fascinating chance of Crawford conflicting with Canelo Alvarez. Later on, a matchup that is, as of now, catching worldwide consideration, Crawford revealed that his group's direction has reliably been blunt and fair dissimilar to the common protected closed-off area of teachers' pets. This provoked Mike Mock to address whether Crawford's impending August 3rd super welterweight session fills in as an antecedent to a possible confrontation with Canelo. Crawford's response to Mock's request appeared to go against the conspicuous truth that he is anxious to meet the Mexican extraordinary. Crawford immediately answered, no sweat in his voice, that he never sees battles as venturing stones, stressing that everything revolves around the current. His disposition on life was the explanation for his created and sure attitude. Crawford made sense of that he probably won't get up tomorrow, so he doesn't like to ponder things far into the future. He underlined that his bottom spotlight is on Mauve and expressed that he is neither stressed over nor contemplating Canelo. Well, here's the truly cool part. Crawford has discussed Canelo despite the fact that he may not be thinking about him at this moment.